Hello, my name is Sarika.
And my name is Michael.
And this is Today in Years Past.
All right, welcome back to episode 4
Woo!
of Today in Years Past. Today is July 2nd.
Woohoo!
Yeah, look at us go. We're into our second month.
I know.
Yeah, look at us go.
I know. Chipping away. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Did you know today is actually the halfway point of the year?
Like the actual halfway point?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought the June 25th was the halfway point of the year.
No, that's halfway to Christmas.
Oh, you're right. You got me.
Yeah. The year doesn't end with Christmas. Come on.
I mean, in my book, it does.
That's fair.
You get like Christmas is off, and then you're off for like another couple of weeks. It just feels like it's the end of the year.
That's fair. But no, today is the midway point of the year. So
oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
I know.
Did you know?
Maybe.
Did you know that today is World UFO Day?
I did not.
You did not know?
That's cool.
Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Do you believe in aliens?
Yes. I believe there's got to be something out there. There's got to be.
Yeah, I believe in that too. I think they might not be exactly what we depict as like, two-legged creatures or whatever, but I think there's other like things that live out in space, even like microbes or something.
Totally.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be something out there.
Yeah.
But the reason it's World UFO Day today is because Roswell happened today.
Oh.
And it's a pretty big deal. That's a big deal in the UFO culture. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's not one of my topics.
Okay.
But
all right.
I do want to kind of just give a little bit of a backstory.
A little segue, if you will.
Exactly. A little segue. So July 2nd, 1947, near Roswell, New Mexico. This is where the crash happened.
Okay.
So it's a date that's forever linked to one of the most famous UFO stories of American history. Back in 1947, just after World War II, UFO sightings were suddenly popping off all across the streets of the U.S.
Really?
Yeah, and on July 2nd, during a thunderstorm near Roswell, something strange was seen streaking across the sky. A flash of light, a whirling object, followed by a crash somewhere nearby. A few days later, a local rancher named Mark Brazel discovered some unusual debris scattered across his property, and so he picked them up and just kind of brought him over to the police and was like, hey, I found something. Not sure what this is. I've never seen anything like it. So keep this in mind. This is a rancher, a guy who's used to being outdoors.
Yeah.
Very like hardy dude.
Yeah.
He finds something and he's not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So he brings it to the police. The U.S. Army gets involved.
Really? But wait, they're popping up everywhere. So why are they looking into this one specifically so much?
This is the first time they gathered materials.
Oh,
so like there were weird sightings that people were seeing all across the U.S. and they were like, "Oh gosh, it's a UFO," But no one had actually gotten
like
a crash,
like debris.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so he had physical evidence of this. So the U.S. Army gets involved, the Air Force. On July 8th, they issued a press release saying they had discovered a flying disc. Keep that in mind. The U.S. Army was like, we have something here.
Okay.
And then the public went crazy, obviously. Newspapers, like, they flooded everything. Oh, there's a UFO in Roswell. And then one day later, the military backtracked, and they were like, oh, it wasn't anything crazy.
It was just a weather happen.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, no, that didn't happen at all. And so for decades, that was the explanation. It was just a weather balloon or just some normal thing that happened, and it wasn't anything crazy. And that happened until the late 1970s or so. In 1994, the U.S. government finally acknowledged that the original object wasn't a weather balloon, but actually part of a top secret surveillance program called Project Mogul, which I did not know.
Wait, so that was a part of the government then?
It sounds like it.
So then how did the CIA get involved, or you say CIA or FBI?
It was the military.
Okay.
Specifically the Air Force.
Okay,
was involved.
But regardless, it was like a military organization that got involved, and they were like, whoa, look at what we found.
Yeah.
But then for the government to turn around and say like, oh no, it was actually this thing that we've been working on, it's just like, maybe you guys should like get your ducks in a row.
You should figure out what you're trying to say to us first. But yeah, I didn't actually know that. And to be fair, I did not fact check this. So I think this could be complete tinfoil hat stuff.
Okay.
I have no idea. But that's what I saw.
Sure.
Top secret surveillance program called Project Mogul, which I've never heard of. It was a high altitude balloon to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Still, a lot of conspiracies still fell apart with that one, or came into fruition for that one. But yeah, so that was the first UFO crash where we were able to gather debris. And there's a whole lot of conspiracy behind that. I'm not going to go into the details, but I was really excited because today is that day. And so it's known as World UFO Day.
Wow. Okay.
And
very cool.
So, yeah. And that brings me to my first story.
All right.
So have you ever been in a store, a very specific store, and thought to yourself, this isn't normal. These people must be aliens. I'm talking about Walmart.
Oh, wow.
Because I think that might be the mothership, because I have seen real weird stuff happening at Walmart.
This is a fun bridge.
I thought you would enjoy that. So somewhere between the $1 clearance rack and discounted inflatable pools, there is definitely some intergalactic stuff going on. Because on July 2nd, 1962, exactly 15 years after Roswell, the first Walmart was opened in Rogers, Arkansas.
Wow. Really? Arkansas of all places.
I know, I thought that too. I really thought it would be in for some reason I thought Texas.
I thought Texas too.
Yeah, I don't know why though.
Because bigger and better in Texas.
You know what? Maybe that is what it is.
Because Walmarts are massive.
Walmarts are massive. So yeah, the first Walmart opened in July 2nd, 1962.
Wow.
In a small town called Rogers, Arkansas, where a man named Sam Walton was able to change the retail world forever.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that. I don't know. I feel like either Walmart was older, but also younger. I don't know why 62. I feel like maybe 80s, but weird. Okay.
No, I feel like that's too soon. Walmart was so
That's
big
fair.
in the 90s.
Was it really?
Yeah, Walmart was huge by early 90s, for sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, more you know. I also know someone named Sam Walton. I would think we went to high school together.
Could be a junior.
Not the same guy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
This guy was opening businesses in 1962.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same guy. So Sam Walton wasn't new to business. He actually spent years running a Ben Franklin variety store. It was kind of like an old school general store that sold everything from socks to sewing kits. And Sam had bigger ideas. He believed that if he could buy goods in large quantities and get them at a lower price and pass those savings to customers, then he could outshine the competition.
Makes sense.
So that's where it all started. He just wanted to sell bulk items at a lower price to the customers.
I mean, that's a great business model.
It is a great business model, and it's worked. But I will say that Walmart is kind of become a villain in that kind of space. And I'll get into a little bit more why. You can probably see where I'm going with this.
I can see.
The problem was that most suppliers at the time didn't believe in his model. They thought small town stores like his didn't have the volume to make bulk pricing work, which, is fair. It was a small company that started. But Sam pushed forward anyway. He opened the doors of Walmart Discount City, a 16,000 square foot store. The idea was simple but radical for the time. Low prices, big selection, and always customer first.
Wow.
Opening day was hectic, to say the least.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sam and his wife Helen handled everything from stocking shelves to running the registers, and his son Rob, who would eventually become Walmart CEO, helped price items and sweep floors.
Wow.
Can you imagine being at that part of your life and then looking back and being like you're CEO of a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Yeah. I mean, wow. That's crazy. Man.
Small world. I actually started work in a grocery store. I've been in that role.
Yeah. Wow. But going back to what you said about the three of them running I've worked in retail before, and I can't imagine me and two other people running an entire store on opening day. That's wild.
I know, right? I'm wondering if the crowds weren't as big though. I'm wondering if because it seemed like the public was not sure. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I think the investors were not sure. I think customers were more than happy to get stuff at a discounted price.
For sure.
So it probably was crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, I could also see small town Arkansas, the crowds could only get so big, but even so.
Yeah. Actually, in my next line, I talk about the customers. So they were very curious about what was going on, but they were cautious, but they loved the prices.
Yeah.
And that was the staple for them,
For
the
sure.
low prices.
Driving factor for sure.
So Sam had delivered on his promise. He was undercutting the competition by offering name brand products at prices usually only seen in big cities.
Wow.
Despite supplier resistance, logistical headaches, and being dismissed by retail veterans, the store turned a profit fast. In fact, it did so well that Sam opened another store the following year, and then another. And then by the end of the decade, Walmart had 18 locations and was already making waves.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it's a great business model. And I mean, it's so lucrative, especially for small town America.
Yeah. But it was almost too, good for what it was doing. Like, I agree with you. It is a very good business model, but it started to, really undercut, mom and pop shops.
And that's the thing. Like, that's the evil side of it is just, it's very much putting out so many businesses everywhere. I remember actually talking to your grandmother, and we were talking about how the Walmart came to your town, and there were a lot of little shops that were very, very niche to little boys' clothes or men's clothes or women's clothes or something like that. But it was specific mom and pop shops, and they went out of business shortly after the Walmart coming to town. It's
exactly.
Just that sucks.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about too, because that Main Street, to put it in perspective for people who might not know, I grew up in a very small town, and so there wasn't really a whole lot of retail around, and the people that had retail, that was a family-owned business, and they've been there for years, decades even.
Yeah, generations. Yeah.
And so when Walmart kind of came in, it really kind of obliterated that. And so there is still some of those smaller shops, but it's not quite the same as it used to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So by the 1980s, as I was saying, Walmart was a pretty big name. So they were full-blown retail empire by that point.
Wow.
Opened in 10,000 locations worldwide and still carrying on Sam Waltman's vision of low prices.
10,000? That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So whether you think aliens crash landed in Roswell or just popped into Walmart for a 5-gallon jar of cheese balls, July 2nd is a pretty iconic day for both UFO fans and bargain hunters.
Yeah, they may be one and the same. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And I was curious as to why Walmart became such a meme, because it's so easy to pick fun at Walmart, and I didn't actually know why that started. So I looked into that.
Yeah.
So the reason Walmart became a meme, this is what I'm going to get into. So it started around 2009. A website called People of Walmart began collecting and publishing photos of real Walmart shoppers caught in bizarre or unconventional outfits, awkward situations, or just generally odd behavior.
Yeah.
And it took off. It went viral, and it played into the stereotype that Walmart attracts eccentric or lowbrow clientele.
I mean, I could see that. Whenever I was in college, Walmart was my lifeline. I would go there all the time, and
would you see the weirdest people?
Depending on the hour you go, the weirder it gets.
Oh yeah, you go at 2 or 3 a.m. You're gonna see some wild stuff, dude.
For sure.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen that you can think of?
Man, I can't remember.
I can tell you one.
Okay, go for it.
So this was around COVID time. So this was when the panic was really settling in.
Yeah.
People were being told to wear masks, stay inside, and all that.
Yeah.
I saw a man. I don't remember why I was at Walmart.
Okay.
But I literally saw a guy going off, preaching to everybody about how COVID isn't a thing, how we're all going to be fine, and all that. You can just picture the person I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And he decided to show everyone that it was fine by licking the floor. Straight up just licked the floor.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that's hands down the weirdest thing I've ever seen at Walmart. But I've seen plenty of other weird stuff.
I hope he's okay.
I don't know, man.
I'm pretty sure the weirdest thing I saw was someone wearing tissue boxes for shoes or something like that.
Okay, that's weird. That might beat me.
No, they were keeping themselves, so.
I did see someone barefoot in Walmart.
That's a decision. Yeah. But not gonna knock it. Those prices are cheap, so.
For sure. Yeah, so because of Walmart's 24-hour schedule, that meant that shopping at all hours of the night could happen.
Yeah.
And that brings me to, the fact that you could see someone at 2 a.m. licking the floor. Its low-price model also appeals to a wide demographic, including people from all economic backgrounds, but public perception often leaned towards associating it with lower income or quote unquote trashy stereotypes, which were unfair but persistent in jokes. Walmart stores are huge, sometimes poorly organized, and very often understaffed, especially during off hours. That led to public frustration and viral videos of messes, long lines, or strange in-store incidents. All of this made it feel like a place where anything could happen, often humorously or frustratingly. So Walmart has also faced criticism, like we were saying before, because of the low wages, poor working conditions, anti-union policies, and driving out local businesses. So inherently, that's not funny, but it added to the perception that Walmart is a corporate villain, which made it an easy target for jokes and satire.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to make fun of a company that's running, smaller companies out of business.
For sure.
So.
But also, it's also like, I mean, we could be poking fun all day long, but they're going to be doing fine with 10,000 stores worldwide.
Oh, they probably have more than that now.
Yeah. So they're doing just fine.
Yeah. So that's what I've got for
July 2nd.
Yep. Nice little UFO tidbit and Walmart, their mothership.
The mothership. Well, okay. Mine actually, I mean, it doesn't tie into what you were talking about with UFO Day, but kind of like crazy air things, I guess, to happen. So on July 2nd, 2002, the longest flight in a balloon around the world occurred.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I know.
How long was this balloon ride?
So it was 14 and a half days, and it was just him in this little balloon.
Did you say 14 and a half days? Mm-hmm. Wow. And so was this like a normal hot air balloon that I'm picturing, like with the basket, basically?
It was not, and I will get into it. But before I do, so I will mention that he landed in Australia on July 3rd. But since this was a worldwide event that like everyone was like watching at the same time, it was reported in America on July 2nd. And so it was like kind of a technicality because he landed on July 3rd in Australia, but like we knew about it in the Western Hemisphere on July 2nd.
Makes sense.
I'm counting it.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So he landed on, like I said, in Australia on July 3rd, July 2nd in America. But yeah, it was just him and the balloon for 2 weeks, traveling the entire globe in a balloon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even think you could do that. Because, like, I know you can take a Zeppelin, but that's like completely different mechanics, complete different, you know, like... to me, in my head, I don't know how Zeppelins work, but to me,
I don't either.
It makes sense that could go around the world, I think. Has it ever happened? I feel like that's happened, right? I'll have to look that up.
I don't know. I'm not totally sure.
But regardless, I feel like a Zeppelin could go around the world. This is like a hot air balloon, right?
It's similar to it. I'll get into it. I have a little divot about that.
That's
but I wanted
crazy.
to. Yeah, I know, right?
Like, sorry, like I'm just. He's in a confined space for 2 weeks. That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to go into him, like who he is first real quick, just so you can we could paint a picture of this guy.
Okay.
His name is Steve Fawcett, and so he was 58 at the time, and he was a millionaire from Chicago. And so he spent most of his time just like trading money and chasing world records. And so this wasn't his first world record.
Really? So this guy just in an afternoon was like, I'm going to break a world record real quick.
Pretty much. He was, well, not real quick. It was very much like a work in progress kind of thing.
I'm sure. But like the idea, it was just like sitting in a lawn chair and just being like, you know what? I think I'm going to do that.
Pretty much.
Living the life, dude.
I know. Yeah. So this guy, he swam the English Channel. He completed the, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to try my best to pronounce this. Iditarod dog sled race in Alaska, raced cars in Le Mans, and piloted an experimental craft just for fun. So this is what he was
for fun.
Just for fun.
I need to be friends with this guy.
Yeah, so he was just kind of doing just quirky world record thing just for the fun of it. And so he was doing a lot of stuff that a lot of people just wouldn't even dream of even doing. And so he tried to do this 5 times before he actually succeeded. And so he was flying around the first couple times, and every time there were crash landings, there were
Whoa. And he was going over the ocean, right? He was going around the world? So there's a big risk. There's a lot more ocean than land.
For sure. Yeah. So
that's terrifying.
So there was one time that he crash landed in Argentina. Another time he bailed over the ocean. And I believe at that time there was like, whenever he does this, he always has like a satellite phone and like all the material needed to like be able to do this.
Okay.
And so he was able to like get a rescue at that time. There was another time that he nearly froze to death because of high altitude.
Wow.
Yeah, but he kept going.
Even in that?
Like even after that. Like after that, I think I didn't look into the mechanics of what happened in that instance. But
like
yeah.
he almost froze to death and kept going and still got the record, or was this?
No. That was one of his failures, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm just going over. Yeah.
Dude, I think even if one of those three things happened to me, I'd be done. I'd be like, I don't really want to do that.
That's what I'm saying. Like after all of that, he still wanted to go for this world record.
Jesus, that's
I know.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many total attempts?
5.
There was 5. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So on June 19th, 2002, he took off in Northam, Australia, in a balloon called the Spirit of Freedom. It wasn't a hot air balloon. It was a hybrid called a Rosier, filled with both helium and hot air, heated air. And it allowed for longer, more controlled flights. And so he rode inside the pressurized capsule. I was looking at pictures. It basically looks like if you had a football turned, so you know like how you normally have the football looking like long ways horizontally, take that and then turn it looking vertically and then wrap it in tinfoil.
And that's what it looked like.
That's what it looked like.
That sounds so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to show me a picture of this because I'm picturing something and it does not look right in my head.
Yeah, and I will post a picture of that on Instagram. On Today and Years Past.
Nice. I love the shout out.
Little plug. But yeah, so the Rosier, it allowed for more controlled flights, and he rode inside that, and it was about the size of a phone booth. He had oxygen tanks, and he had freeze-dried foods, a sleeping bag, a satellite phone, like I was saying before, and a laptop to send emails. And this was all to kind of just like keep him going the entire way. And he didn't stop at all the entire time.
Whoa, this is a lot like the boat guy.
I know, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you keep finding these stories?
I don't know. But they're so fascinating.
It is fascinating. That's so cool.
Yeah.
This is very much, I think this is on par with the UFO thing.
Right? Yeah, I thought so.
Whoa. What if this guy, Mr. Fawcett, was a time traveler and he's the one who crash landed in Roswell?
Oh.
And they found remnants of his balloon.
Shit.
I think I just solved it. He was a time traveler.
The same day.
It's got to be that. We just solved it. We just solved the case.
Yep, we don't. Yep. Right here on this podcast.
Military ain't got nothing on us.
Oh, no. Okay, so the route took him over Australia, the Pacific Ocean, South America, South Atlantic, Africa, the Indian Ocean, and then back to Australia. So like you said, there's a lot of ocean happening there.
Yeah, a lot can happen in that time frame. Do you think anybody saw that and thought it was a UFO, though?
I don't know. I mean, he flew over so much of the ocean that I don't know if anyone saw him.
He did go over some land,
That's true. Yeah. Like
imagine if there was somebody and they saw that and they're like...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he flew over Africa.
He's got to be low enough that people could see him, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't fly up where planes would be.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. So he was flying in the jet stream, so that was around 30,000 feet.
Is that how high planes fly?
That's a really good question. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I feel like it is. Let me look it up.
Okay.
So it looks like commercial airlines typically cruise at altitudes between 30,000 and 42,000 feet. So he was like right below that. Or, no, he was in that. 30,000, you said, right?
Yeah, 30,000.
Wow, so he was like, oh my God, he could have like got hit by a plane.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, he had the laptop and the satellite phone, and so I'm sure, I mean, they have those air towers, like air traffic control, and so I'm sure they were aware of this as well, because there's so many planes in that region that air traffic control kind of like controls the traffic.
So everybody was aware of what was happening. Okay,
for sure. Yeah,
that's fair. I keep thinking, like every time you talk about stories like this, I just keep thinking they went completely rogue for some reason. They're like, I'm just gonna go up into the air, or I'm gonna take a boat for a couple. He was out for like 3 years, but like that's crazy. No. So is this the longest? This is the longest one. Yes. That anybody was in a balloon.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. No. There's a lot of coordination that goes into all these things.
I don't know why I think like that.
We're just a bunch of rogue humans.
I I guess that speaks to my character. You know, I didn't ask this in the last one, but like, how do you use the bathroom in these situations? Like, that's a long time.
I didn't look into that. I don't know.
That's like the first thing I need to know.
I feel like with the boat story with that guy,
I think he had something figured out.
Well, I mean, it's also the ocean was there. With this guy, though,
Fair.
I don't know. I would imagine he'd have like at least a bottle or something like that, or like a window that you can just kind of like chuck it out of.
Oh, that'd be unfortunate for people down below.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, he he barely slept during this time. He napped in short bursts, and he kind of just trusted the autopilot of the thing to keep it stable, which is bold and scary considering considering the 5 times prior. But finally on July 2nd, after traveling more than 20,000 miles, he landed safely back in Queensland, Australia, the first person ever to fly alone around the world in a balloon.
Wow. Way to go. Yeah. Mr. Fawcett.
I know.
Just doing records on a weekend because he feels like it.
Well, over 2 weeks. But yeah.
Well, still, but you know.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But after that, he didn't actually stop there. After the balloon flight, he went on to break records in gliders, planes, and even sailboats. In 2005, he became the first person to fly solo around the world on an airplane without refueling. And he really just wanted to push boundaries and do what he wanted to do and just go for it.
I think he's pushing too many boundaries.
And that kind of takes me to the next point, because sadly he disappeared in 2007.
He disappeared? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
During a solo flight in the Nevada In 2007, he disappeared on a solo flight in the Nevada desert, which is close to the crash
Roswell,
landing.
New Mexico.
Whoa!
He time traveled to 1947. No wonder they didn't know what the material was.
Yeah. He was declared missing for over a year, and a hiker found his crash site in the mountains. But even then, there was a strange poetry to it, and he spent his years chasing the horizon, and that's where he ended up.
Wow. That's like kind of poetically beautiful, but also tragic.
Yeah, for sure.
That's sad. But
that was him.
Dude, what a wild dude.
I know, right?
What was his first name?
His name was Steve.
Steve Fawcett.
Steve Fawcett.
Well, rest in peace, Steve Fawcett. You are a legend.
Yeah.
That is some wild stuff.
I know. Incredible. An anomaly, really. But yeah. All right. What you got for me?
I have a pretty fun story. This is going to be a quick one. Okay. But have you ever thought about how scary it would be if it started raining spiders or anything crazy like that?
No. I hate that. I hate that so much.
That sounds awful, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what if I told you...
I don't want to hear this.
That happened.
I don't. No.
What if I told you that an alligator came down from the sky?
Oh, God. What in the world?
This is a story on July 2nd that was in a newspaper article in 1843 in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, my God.
And it is a alligator falling from the sky.
What?
Now, I will be upfront. Nobody actually saw it happen.
Wait, so how do they know?
Well, there was a dead alligator in the street, and I'm going off of the newspaper article. This is literally what it says.
The media are wild.
So, let me get it up 1 second. I will say, they also had very flowery language in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So, this is the article, verbatim. Sunday week was a day terrible for its heat in Charleston, South Carolina, according to all its editors. But towards night, the oppressiveness of the weather was relieved by a thunderstorm and a ludicrous incident connected there with the Mercury, which was another article, newspaper article, gives the following account. The thunderstorm of Sunday night, the winding up of one of the most oppressive days ever inflicted on mortal man, was really terrific. The whole firmament growled thunder and shot lightning. It was blinding to look out, and at frequent intervals the thunderbolts burst overhead with a power that shook the solidest structures, then rolled with angry growlings along the wings of the storm. St. Paul's Church was struck, but not seriously injured. Beyond this, we have heard of no casualty unless we make account as such the raining down of an alligator about 2 feet long at the corner of Wentworth and Anson Streets. We have not been so lucky enough to find anyone who saw him come down, but the important fact is that he was there is uncontestable. and as he couldn't have gotten there any other way, it was decided unanimously that he must have rained down. Besides, the beast had a look of wonder and bewilderment about him that showed plainly enough he must have gone through a remarkable experience. By the last accounts, he was doing as well as an alligator could, he expected to do after sailing through the air in such a bad weather.
My God. You were not kidding about the flowery language.
Oh, yeah, that was really hard to read, by the way.
Yeah. It really feels like they were trying to go for a word count or something like that. It was like, the editor is like, you don't leave that station until you hit this many words, writer, because, like, I feel like they're just throwing shit in there for shits and gigs.
Honestly, you could have just been like, yo, there was an alligator on the street. Yeah. We don't know how it got there. It must have rained down. I don't know. And then, oh, by the way, the church was struck, but it's fine.
Yeah,
like, you could have, what was that, like 10 words? 20 words, maybe?
My God.
It was ridiculous. So that was by the Times, I'm going to butcher this, Picayune or Picayune?
Cool.
I'm not sure, but it's New Orleans, along with the Charleston Mercury was the other.
Picayune?
Probably Picayune, yeah. I did not know how to say that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, of course. Maybe. I don't know.
No, that sounds right. The Times Picayune in New Orleans was also citing Charleston Mercury, which was the other news article that I was mentioning. Yeah, they reported that a 2-foot-long alligator was found at the corner of Wentworth and Anson Streets in Charleston, and they concluded that it rained down because it couldn't have gotten there any other way.
No other way.
Which, people have pets. This could have been a pet.
Yeah, I mean, but also it's New Orleans, so, like, alligators, and also 2 feet, that's not very big at all.
It's a baby. It's a baby alligator.
Yeah, it probably just kind of got lost and, like, maybe...
It just wandered into the street, and then, anything could have happened.
Literally.
But... I was skeptical too.
Okay.
And so I looked up if this is possible.
Okay.
Turns out it is. And it's happened a dozen times.
What?
Actually, more than a dozen times. Not just with alligators, but with a lot of things.
Oh.
And they're all very frightening things to be falling from a sky.
Okay.
So the idea that people have speculated is that what's known as a waterspout occurred. It's basically like a tornado that goes over a body of water, kind of picks up stuff, brings it into the air, and just kind of throws it around. That is the belief, at least with this alligator went through.
Oh.
So, yeah, I thought so too. It's really upsetting, but I mean, it is a possibility.
Yeah.
So this isn't the first time a phenomenon like this has happened. Events like this have happened and have been reported for centuries. It's a global phenomenon, and there's reports of frogs, fish, worms, snails, spiders, eels, snakes, and tadpoles raining down in places like Brazil, Australia, Japan, India, US, Kenya, Honduras, and many, many more. This happens, I wouldn't say frequently, but it happens. So I went through all of the ones that I could find that have happened either somewhat recently or in years past. And so I'm going to go through them really quick.
Sure.
Marksville, Louisiana, 1947. Fish ranging from 2 to 9 inches fell silently during calm weather. A wildlife biologist collected specimens post-event confirming the fall. So he was able to verify that they did in fact fall from the sky.
Wow.
Lajamanua, Australia. Remote desert town saw fish rain in 2004, 2010, and 2023. Residents even collected fish after the storms.
Dinner.
Right? Free dinner. Ishikawa, Japan, 2009. Numerous tadpoles rained down in cities like Neneo and Hakkasan. Jennings, Louisiana, 2007. A lot of these are happening in Louisiana, I've noticed. Hundreds of worms descended on a schoolyard at night, likely whisked up from a nearby bayou by a tornado-like event. Santo Antonio de Platina, Brazil, in 2013. A bizarre spider rain blanketed the town in a silky cascade of spiderlings.
Hate it.
Yep, that was my least favorite.
Hate that so much. I'll go for the tadpoles for sure.
Euro, Honduras, the legendary La Via de Pacis, rain of fish, occurs annually, sometimes up to 4 times.
Whoa. Just have buckets outside.
Right? It prompts local festivals and folklore. I thought that was interesting.
That's crazy.
Bath, England, 1894. A chilling shower of jellyfish descended inland after a coastal storm. And then we got the Czech Republic in Roudnitz, 2008. Small snails fell during a storm. And Qingdao, China, 2018. A thunderstorm burst open, scattering octopi, starfish, and seashells on the streets after winds lifted marine life from nearby waters.
That'd be cool to see, like, little seashells and starfish on the streets.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want, like, jellyfish falling from the sky.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
The ocean creatures are scary, dude.
That's true. That's very fair.
But that's my whole story. I just wanted to go through a couple of, just to bring it home. This has happened. Like, that is a real thing. That does happen.
That's crazy.
But, yeah, wanted to talk about the little alligator on July 2nd, 1843.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. 1800s were a crazy place.
I think everywhere is a crazy place. Most of these stories happened pretty recently. Like, the most recent one was 2023. So,
and, I mean, there's one of them that happens annually.
Yeah. So they see this pretty often, apparently.
Yeah. Wow, never heard of that.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
All right, so my next story is on July 2nd, 2005. It was a Live 8 free global concert for change. Yeah. So it happened on 10 stages across the world, Hyde Park in London, the Palace of Versailles, France, Philadelphia's Benjamin Franklin Parkway, Johannesburg, Mary Fitzgerald Square, and venues in Berlin, Rome, Moscow, Cornwall, and Tokyo. And they were all happening at the same time. And so basically, it was on July 2nd, 2005, and it was a Live 8, a free global concert with a single urgent mission. It was to make poverty history.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's how did they get this all together?
So it was a lot of coordination.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. And so it was two people that they coordinated it because they wanted this to happen right before the G8 summit. And so it was a really big conference with a lot of world leaders. And so they wanted to urge them to make a change. And like, this was all in the pursuit of reduce poverty in the world. And because there was like so many world leaders coming together, these couple, they basically said like, we want everyone all these concerts to come together. And it was like huge names like U2, Paul McCartney, the Beatles. Oh no, they were singing the Beatles. And there was Madonna, Pink Floyd, Mariah Carey. They were a bunch of really big names. And yeah, they were all basically just preaching to the crowd saying like, you know, we're here to like make a change, make a difference. Like we want this stage, like we want our stage for good. And like we want to like push for good and the better for the humanity.
Yeah.
And there were other people as well, like Will Smith. He got onto the stage, snapping his fingers for every 3 seconds. Each snap represented a child dying from preventable causes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was just like, it was this very monumental moment that happened worldwide. And it was free too.
Wow.
So
it was kind of like bringing, you know, the light to something that people really need to fix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Nelson Mandela was there too. And he was talking about real change that needs policy, not just passion. And so it was like they were all basically speaking to the world leaders at the G8 summit that was about to occur.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really appreciate the fact that they brought so much attention to this cause.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the whole like driving force behind it. But yeah, it wasn't a ticketed event. You won the tickets by sending in a text message, and over 2 million people did. So there you go.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah, and it was at $1.50 each, raising about $3 million. And so I looked into like the reason.
$1.50 each? Mm-hmm. Wait, I thought it was free.
No, so it was a ticketed event, and so that's how you got it. And so
so they had to win the tickets. Oh,
yeah,
I see. Okay.
Yeah, because like since there were so many like really big names at it, like Madonna and you know all the people I mentioned before.
Yeah.
The reason that they made it the way that they did was because they didn't want to have barriers in place for people to like come and see this. Like it wasn't just very much just for the people that had a lot of money, because like you know concert tickets to Madonna are probably very expensive.
Oh, for sure.
And so they didn't want like a barrier to entry for people to go, and they wanted everyone of every social class to be able to see this and be able to witness this.
Yeah, have the opportunity to win a ticket and go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they were charging tickets would have put a financial barrier and cut into that crowd. And so they were trying to get the largest concert possible for this to happen. And they wanted the focus to really be around the demands for debt relief for specific countries, having aid increases, and trade justice. And I'll go into that a little bit too. But behind the scenes, the corporate sponsors underwrote most of it. And that was the way that it was able to like make it come to the forefront. And like that was who made this concert happen. It was all these sponsors.
Oh, cool.
So if you're wondering about that side of it,
I was a little bit, I was like, how did you get all of these people in here?
Yeah, so EMI, they kicked in $8 million for DVD rights. AOL, Nokia, Bin Aid Trust also helped out a bunch. And so there were a lot of sponsors that also really believed in this mission. And so it's just a bunch of people and a lot of these like really great large companies, great artists just coming together saying like, no, we need change. And so they banded together and made it happen.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like a protest, but
more or less,
in a way, yeah, it's like you don't really hear that, like a musical kind of protest.
Yeah,
that probably is a thing, but
for sure. Yeah, but it's beautiful. And that like so many artists came together for this too. And thought that was really cool. So
kudos to them for actually like doing it and being a part of it. That's really cool.
For sure. Yeah. So while those people were at the actual venues, there was 182 TV networks that were tuned in, 2,000 radio stations, and millions of people online. And in the US, about 3 million viewers watched. Globally, around 30 million viewers across the world. And so, like I was saying before, the real goal behind this was trying to get poverty history and trying to like make that change. The two people that were behind this, Bob Geldof and Midge Uri, they were the ones who really put this whole thing together. And their ask was simple. It was double aid, cancel crippling debt, and open trade markets to African goods. The G8 pledged to boost an annual aid from the US $25 billion to US $50 billion by 2010, and dedicating half of that to Africa. They also agreed to wipe out 100% of the debts owed by 18 nations that had completed the heavily indebted poor countries process. So I was looking into it a little bit with the heavily indebted poor countries. And so it's basically countries that have a lot of debt to their name and to their countries. And so whenever they're trying to make all these decisions for their countries, they have that kind of weigh them down.
Right.
So like, you know, if like trade goods and things like that are coming in, they like have all of this stuff and they're not able to put that money into the infrastructure, into the education, healthcare, and all of that, because all this debt from all these other countries.
They have limiting means to do so because they owe other people money and all
exactly.
that. They can't put it into their own schooling systems or roads or urban industrial.
Exactly. Yeah, into their own landscape.
Yeah.
And so, basically, exactly what you said. So they're not able to like put that money back into their economy and like see that change for the better good. And so all of that money is going to all of these other countries that are asking for this.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they helped pay off those debts?
They were wiped. So
they were wiped.
Mm-hmm. So that was what I was saying. So this concert was basically saying like, we want you guys as at the G8 summit to wipe the debt of these countries so they can start investing in themselves.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they do that? How did they wipe the debts? Did they band together and pay the debts, or like they just
wiped it clean?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think you could do that.
So it has to be from the side of the country that is asking for it. They have to like.
So like if Germany owed a debt to Ireland, for example, if Ireland was like, hey, can we not pay this? And Germany was like, yeah.
I mean, I'm
fine.
sure that's like way more complicated
obviously,
than that.
But I'm like, I'm dumbing it down a lot. But like, is that kind of like more or less what happened? Like the other country was like, yeah, that's fine.
From my understanding, and that was the whole reason that like, because these world leaders were coming together and they were all saying like, is this a doable thing? And and that was what everyone was trying to push for, so those countries could start investing themselves. But again, I know like the tip of the iceberg of it, and that was my understanding. So yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah. So actually going off of that as well, Ghana, for example, saw over $10 billion in debt canceled and ramped up social spending nearly fivefold by 2012, transforming clinics and classrooms. And so this was just like an incredible thing that they were able to put together for the greater good of society and the world.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really, really beautiful.
And giving countries an opportunity to kind of build themselves rather than relying on other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. And so whenever you think of July 2nd, 2005, don't just remember a day of just amazing performances, which it was. It was great. In a lot of ways, it turned those stages into soapboxes, and it really like and that was the most beautiful thing why I chose this story was like those artists and creators were using their platform for the greater good, and they were creating and like sending a really positive, beautiful message to the world. So
yeah, that's wonderful. And to get artists like those big to get together for like a single cause is incredible.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's not gonna happen very often.
No, yeah.
And the fact that the tickets weren't thousands of dollars, because it easily could have been.
Totally, yeah.
So that's really cool. And so the listeners overall, you said it was 30 million? Mm-hmm. Is that just in the U.S. or is that worldwide?
Worldwide.
Okay.
That was at the 10 venues.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So across 10 venues, there was 30 million.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And then a bunch of people around everywhere as well.
So it was different countries. Does that mean that like it was different respective artists in those countries?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was a lot of really popular artists in each country, and they were all just sharing the stage at the end of the day.
That's cool.
I know, right?
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I think I did hear something about this a long time ago, but I don't think I really knew what was going on. You said it was 2005?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago. Yeah.
So I was 13. I was 13
wow.
20 years ago.
That's crazy.
Weird.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they were able to make a change, and those countries are still seeing those effects today.
That's beautiful.
Isn't it?
To see something actually go into effect and make a difference, that's very, very nice.
Right. Yeah.
So they're still implementing like those changes even today?
So the change, well, I'm saying that like the effects of those changes are still felt today.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the debts being pulled away and like
and they
being
can focus
relieved.
their finances and economy on whatever they want in their country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then funding going to them and helping them out where they need and things like that. It's just a beautiful story. So
yeah, I love that, bringing helpful hands to other countries on July 2nd.
Yeah, that was my story.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that, and tying music in with it too is very cool.
All right, what you got for me?
So my last topic has to deal with chemistry and agriculture, and originally I started looking into this story just because it sounded interesting. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then I realized this is actually like extremely important to even today's agriculture around the world. So not even just in the U.S.
Okay.
The very first demonstration of ammonia synthesis in Germany on July 2nd, 1909. I want to talk about two people that literally saved the world.
Ooh, okay.
So,
I'm intrigued.
Just to put this in perspective, this was just before World War I. Okay. So World War I happened in July 28th, 1914.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Yeah, so this is a little bit before.
Okay.
I want to introduce Fritz Haber.
Okay.
That was born in Poland, and he was from a well-off Jewish family.
Okay.
He was a renowned chemist.
Okay.
And I want to also introduce his partner, Karl Bosch.
Okay.
And his role, he was a lead engineer at BASF.
Okay.
Which BASF stands for Badische Anlin- und Soda Fabrik.
Cool.
And
nice. Well
I tried. So that translates to Boden Aniline and Soda Factory. Okay. And it's the world's largest and oldest chemical company. And it was founded in 1865.
Wow.
So just a little fun fact. Not super important to the story, but wanted to set the scene of like who these people were. Okay.
So we got an engineer and a renowned scientist.
Oh yeah, chemist.
Chemist, sorry.
Yeah, but also a fun fact. Fritz Haber was friends with Einstein. They often shared philosophy and theoretical ideas together.
Whoa, that's crazy. Imagine being friends with Einstein. That's crazy.
I know, right? It's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, not really important to this story, but I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, nice little tidbit.
So the reason I bring these two guys up and the reason I say they literally saved the world.
Okay, yeah.
The Haber came up with an idea to create ammonia out of nitrogen in the air.
Ammonia out of nitrogen in the air. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't take a chemistry class ever.
That's totally fair. So this was a big deal. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but this was a big leap forward for humanity. So the reason that's important is around this time, there was a global nitrogen crisis for plants.
Whoa. So, why? They just like plants weren't producing nitrogen as much as they should?
Well, plants don't produce nitrogen. They need nitrogen to survive.
Okay.
And so what the issue was is that there wasn't enough nutrients in the soil to keep crops alive. And so they were dying off. And there was a growth of, people. So there was a population boom.
Yeah.
And literally they were worried that there wouldn't be enough food to sustain people because they didn't have a good means to produce crops in a larger scale.
Because there wasn't enough nitrogen.
Yeah. So like they would typically get this stuff from like bird guano or like cow manure, that kind of thing. But there was only so much of that available.
It's like a limited supply.
Yeah. So they were literally making fertilizer out of these things and they were running out and food was scarce. Like it was starting to get to a point where it was a global crisis.
Yeah.
And so they really needed scientists to come forward and be like, hey, there's nitrogen in the air. How do we turn that into useful nitrogen in the ground?
Yeah. So like basically focusing it into like funneling it from the air and then like putting it in the ground.
Exactly.
Whoa.
And that's exactly what they figured out how to do.
Wow.
And on this day,
it's like, how do you even fathom that? Like, it's air.
At the time, yeah, that was like they knew. So just to put in perspective, 78% of the air that we breathe is nitrogen. So we're breathing nitrogen all the time.
Whoa.
And there's not as much nitrogen in the ground as there is in the air. So the idea was, can we take the nitrogen that we find in the air and somehow turn it into a form that we can put it into the ground so that these plants could consume it?
And I thought there was more oxygen in the air.
Well, I mean, oxygen is in the air, that's true, but...
There's more nitrogen?
Yes, that's true. So the most abundant gas in the Earth's atmosphere, making up about 78% of the air, is nitrogen.
Whoa.
Oxygen is the second most at 21%.
But that's still a significant amount more. I always thought there was more oxygen in the air. Again, didn't do a chemistry class.
I didn't know that either. But when I was doing my research, I came across that number. I didn't really actually think about oxygen being in the air. But yeah, there's a bunch of gases that are in the air that we breathe. But nitrogen is the most abundant.
Whoa.
And so that was like people wanted to come forward and be like, how can we get the nitrogen that's in the air and put it in the ground so that we can have plants feed off of it, because that's the only way that plants can use it.
Right.
And so this would be good for crops.
Right.
And you'd get a bigger yield on farms. And then you'd be able to sustain a much bigger population.
It's crazy, the butterfly effect of like how that one thing trickles into one thing to another, to another, to another. And then we have more crops. Like someone figuring out the nitrogen in the air goes into the crops, which means that goes into plants, which turns into crops, and then crops feed people. Therefore, it's like that trickle effect of one thing to another, and it's just like, whoa.
That is, it is fascinating.
It's so fascinating.
Because this was like years of research that had to have accumulated over time. Like, okay, nitrogen is in the ground, kind of, but plants need it.
Right.
And there's nitrogen in the air. There's a lot more of that in the air. And just like the discoveries that happened along the way is just kind of cool.
Okay, tell me more.
Didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
So the way that Carl Bosch and Fritz Haber kind of connected. So Carl Bosch was instrumental in the actual industrialization of Fritz Haber's research. So Fritz Haber is the guy who kind of came up with the solution to create ammonia out of the air.
Okay.
And so this had never been done before, but this is something that they really needed to figure out, and he had figured it out. So they were in a lab, and after hours of, tinkering and doing all this stuff, they were able to get a pint of liquid ammonia from the air. After I don't know what all of the system was in place, but they were able to create a pint in about 5 hours.
Whoa.
And so Haber had done it. He had created liquid ammonia that they could use for fertilizer.
Wait, okay. I thought we were trying to get nitrogen out of the air. Why are you saying ammonia now?
That's what it was called. Okay, so the reason it's called ammonia is because it has a nitrogen compound in it. A compound that's made up of nitrogen atoms. and hydrogen atoms. So it's just like a name for the combination of the two. And so basically what they did is they distilled nitrogen and hydrogen together into a liquid form, and that's what is known as ammonia.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And that's what they're putting into the ground.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't explain that before, but
no, you're good.
Yeah, so they created liquid ammonia from the nitrogen in the air.
I see.
And so they wanted to create this kind of fertilizer to put on crops, and so that's what they created. Okay. And so in this lab, Haber created this 1 pint thing of ammonia, and so he realized this is possible. We can create ammonia from the nitrogen in the air, and we can use this for the crops.
That's so cool.
And so he needed somebody to kind of industrialize this and grow it at a global scale. Right. And so that's where Carl Bosch comes in. Yeah. So Haber and Bosch got together, and then Bosch was like, I can, build up this industrial warehouse or whatever. We can like pump this out. And so that's what they did, and they got this out to like the entire country of Germany. Whoa. And then eventually like the whole world started using this process. Haber and Bosch actually patented this technique, and now it's known as the Haber-Bosch process.
Oh wow, I've never heard of this.
I know, and it's extremely important because we still use it today.
Really?
Yeah. Whoa. In fact, a lot of the food you consume is from this process directly. Whoa. It's used for those crops.
Because they shared the methodology with other people across the world. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it's actually known, it's a fun fact actually, that 50% of the nitrogen in your body comes directly from this process, consuming the food that has used or been around this process.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a huge impact. Like it was a massive, massive impact on not just Germany, but the world.
Yeah.
And so like this helped stave off hunger. It helped with malnutrition.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. This process allows countries to produce nitrogen fertilizers independently of natural deposits. Like I was saying before, when they were using cow manure and, bird guano and that kind of thing, they didn't have to do that anymore. They didn't have to rely on outside resources. Like they could just pull it from the air. Yeah. and then
distill it down. Yeah.
And so with this research, Haber and Bosch both got Nobel Prizes.
I mean, I would imagine so. Yeah, they've literally changed the way that we eat food and like the way that farmers make crops and everything. That's crazy.
Yeah, they literally this research has saved the most lives. Wow. And it's one of the best examples of engineering meets chemistry. Yeah. Because the two of them, one being an engineer, one being a renowned chemist. Yeah. They came together and they literally saved the world. Wow. They saved billions of lives by doing this.
I just it's wild that we don't know about this, because that is that's earth shattering. Like that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really at least it wasn't well known to me. Yeah. It's not something you really hear about. No. And I thought this was incredible.
Right. Yeah.
And so, on that day, on July 2nd, 1909, that's when they actually showed that it was a valid process. They could do it. Whoa. That's when he got that little pint of ammonia, and they realized we can actually make this happen. Whoa. And now it's a process that we use all the time.
And I'm sure over time, a lot of other engineers and chemists have been able to speed up the process and make it better over time. I'm imagining.
There is actually, they are looking for a way to kind of enhance the process from what I read, because it's not exactly great for the environment to do this. Oh, really? Yeah, there is some negative impacts. However, I'm not going to get too into it, but sure. I do know that there was some negative impacts to doing this, but they needed to do something quickly because they were literally running out of food. Yeah. And so, they came up with that, and now we're here. I will say, though, that Fritz Haber actually, there's a bit of controversy after he got the Nobel Prize, because he got it after World War I. Oh, okay. And the military, so with World War I, they needed nitrogen for bombs.
Oh my God.
So you can see where this is going.
They turned to this and they were like, you guys can do this. Can you make it for us?
Basically, yeah. So
it's the government, so what do you say?
They had to tweak their process a little bit, but that is exactly what happened. Now, to be fair, Haber didn't like he didn't do this for military purpose. He did this to save the world.
Yeah.
And he was trying to figure out how to stop this crisis of no food. And so he got the Nobel Prize for that, but a lot of scientists they kind of look at him in a negative way because he also kind of helped propel the war efforts and things like that. And so
it sucks because, like, I mean, yeah, that's not great, like, at all, and even in the slightest. But on the other side of that coin, it's like, I mean, we're still feeling the effects of this technique or this process today. And so I guess, like, I don't know, I feel like it may have offset in that way. That sounds really fucked up, but, like, I don't know. I think since so many people have been able to benefit from it in the way of getting food, maybe, I don't know, the war side of it, I guess, I don't know. I can see it on both sides. I can see why people are upset about it, but I can also see, like, why he deserves that Nobel Prize.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it saved more people than it destroyed.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what I'm kind of getting at, because, like, I mean, that was the 1909, you said?
It was 1909, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago.
The grand scheme of things, not really, but, you know.
I mean, no, yeah. But it was more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that have been touched by that, and I can only imagine that everyone has 50% of that in them in the world. So
yeah, on average, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, like every country that has a well-established agriculture uses this process because there's such a huge population and demand for it.
Right.
And it's not something that you think about, you know? So like it's very fascinating. I thought it was very cool. I really wanted to talk about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, they learned how to synthesize ammonia from the air.
Whoa.
And that has never been done before until today.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
I thought it was super, super fascinating.
Well, thanks for sharing. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think that's about all I've got for this. Yeah.
Very cool. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. I thought that was crazy. It's like more than half of the world depends on that.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Yeah. That was a really special story.
For sure. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right. What's your last story?
All right. So mine is on July 2nd, 2013. 2 of Pluto's moons got their names.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Is Pluto a planet now? Or is it not a planet? What happened?
It's not, but I think it is.
It's always a planet in my heart.
Of course. Yes, exactly.
I grew up with it being a planet.
So it's always going to be a planet.
It's always a planet.
Yep.
Pluto is a planet.
I agree. Yep. No one can tell me otherwise. But so this is a story about how 2 of Pluto's tiniest planets, it's Kerberos and Styx, and that's spelled Styx. And those names became official on July 2nd. But the way that they got their names was actually quite interesting. The astronomers got the help from the public, which I didn't know.
Oh, was it a vote?
Yeah, actually.
Nice. What were the choices?
I'll get into it.
Okay.
So back in 2011 and 2012, scientists used the Hubble Space Telescope and discovered the 2 moons orbiting Pluto. And they were pretty small. And before they got their names, they were called P4 and P5. But those were just temporary names whenever they found them. So astronauts weren't actually looking for moons or anything like that whenever they were looking in the Hubble Space Telescope. They were actually just scanning for debris and things like that would basically endanger NASA's New Space Horizons aircraft that was actually going towards Pluto for a historic 2015 flyby. And so whenever they were just scanning around, they just happened to see 2 moons they never saw before.
Oh, so this is all by accident.
Pretty much, yeah.
So if Pluto has moons, doesn't that mean it's a planet? It has to be a planet.
Yeah. That makes sense to me, but I think it's too small to be considered a planet. Because I think
no, it's a planet.
No, I completely agree. But they think that they need to be a specific size to be able to be warranted as a planet. But always a planet in my heart. But yeah, it was an accident that they found these last 2 moons. But now naming a moon wasn't just just picking something cool or whatever it was. There's a process, and it runs through the International Astronomical Union, the IAU, if you will. And for the moons, there was actually a tradition to follow. that all of the names come from underworld mythology, which is really cool. So Pluto itself was named after the Roman god of the underworld, and it already had 3 other moons that we already knew of to this point, and those were also around the underworld theme, and it was Charon, Nyx, and Hydra, and that all fit within that theme. And the thing that was really cool about it, which you actually already said, was instead of doing the name choosing behind closed doors, they decided to open it up to the public. And so in early 2013, they launched an online poll. You're going to love this. The name of the poll was Pluto Rocks.
That's so clever.
I know. And so they invited people all around the world to vote on a list of mythological names and even suggest their own. And it caught a lot of attention, obviously so.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. One of the names that were suggested that got a lot of votes was Vulcan. And it was actually submitted by William Shatner, which was Captain Kirk from Star Trek.
Nice.
But unfortunately, that actually got nixed from that list because it didn't really fit with the IAU's rules.
Shatner trying to go against the rules.
A little bit, yeah. So Vulcan is actually associated with fire and volcanoes.
Yeah.
Not so much the underworld. So
pretty sure that was the name of their ship.
Well, there you go.
I'm pretty sure that's where that came from.
Well, I can appreciate him for throwing it out there. It was popular.
Yeah.
But it was also used somewhere else in astronomy, and so despite it being popular, it was ruled out. But the team went with the 2nd and 3rd place winners that did fit the theme. Kerberos, which was named after a multi-headed dog who guards the gates of the underworld in Greek mythology.
Whoa. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah. Isn't that really cool?
Yeah.
And then Styx, the river that souls must cross to reach the realm of the dead.
Was that in Hercules?
That sounds familiar.
I think both of those were in Hercules, actually.
I mean, that makes sense with Greek mythology and all. Yeah. So, yeah, both of those names were approved on July 2nd, 2013. So, Kerberos and Styx might be tiny and distant, but they're actually a part of, I think, one of the most fascinating mini solar systems out there. Pluto has 5 moons, and they all kind of exist in their own little chasm out there.
Whoa.
Really far away.
Just a little mini universe.
Yeah. Isn't that so cool?
Little solar system.
Yeah. So
damn, I didn't think Pluto had any moons. It has 5 moons.
Mm-hmm.
I said he, like it's a guy. It has 5 moons.
Yeah. And then I was looking into it a little bit more as well, just like, because has this been the case before? So with like voting and everything, every once in a while they'll get the public involved, but not that often. I think there were a couple other instances where they got the general public involved in the naming process of like planets and asteroids and things like that and moons.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of moons within our solar system, this is maybe one of the few times this has happened, which is really cool.
Really?
And then another thing that I found that was really fascinating, each solar system to a degree follows kind of like a theme of some sort. And I can't remember what it was exactly for each one, but Pluto's being the underworld. And like that was kind of where all the names circle around.
Interesting. I didn't realize there was so much that went into naming things in space.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either. But I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. Because, like, I don't know, just anything in space.
Yeah.
Like, they find a new star or something, they always name it. Like, it's got to go through, like, a little bit of a process to get named. Like, it's... Also, how do they keep track? Like, everything looks the same to me up there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, they know what they're doing.
For sure.
They're way smarter than I am. But, like, I don't know. I think it's fascinating.
Probably a crazy database with a lot of information.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine just like going through that? Like, there's probably so much stuff.
Yeah, but...
Yeah,
so Pluto got 2 moons named on today's date in 2013. July 2nd.
Wow, that wasn't all that long ago.
No, not really.
22 years ago.
Yeah, so we may have seen...
Or no, 12 years ago.
Yeah, 12 years ago. So we may have actually seen the Pluto Rocks poll come around.
Yeah, maybe. I might have thought it was a scam if I actually saw it. I'd be like, this isn't real.
Yeah, right? And then claiming it's from the IAU.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's
crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, but anyways, today was July 2nd, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to us, or if you have any suggestions for topics in the future, you can reach us at
yearspastpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you want to follow us on Instagram and see any cool pictures of the stories we talked about, you can do that at
Today in Years Past.
All right, it's been Today in Years Past. It's been July 2nd. Happy UFO Day, and bye.
Bye!